Chapter 9, The Other Side. Later that day, Decima ventured beyond the garden, following the barely visible trail that wound into the woods. The air grew cooler as she walked, the trees thicker and the light dimmer, though the sun still hung high in the sky. This part of the forest always felt different, as if time bent slightly around it, as if the rest of the world couldn't quite touch it. She called it the Whispering Path, not because of the wind, but because when she walked here, she could almost hear voices. Not clear words, but echoes, feelings, longings, warnings. Today they felt louder. The pendant in her pocket felt heavier with every step, like it was leading her. Or warning her. Her fingers curled around it for reassurance, the cool metal pressing into her skin. Daniel walked beside her, close but quiet. The space between them charged with something unspoken. Their shoulders brushed once. Just a fleeting touch. But it was enough to make her breath catch. She glanced at him, the curve of his jaw, the flicker of light in his eyes, the way his hands were shoved deep into his pockets like he didn't trust them. He caught her staring, a small, knowing smile tugging at his lips. "What?" he asked softly, his voice low, warm. Her cheeks flushed and she looked away, shaking her head with a quiet laugh. "Nothing. I can't stop looking at you." Daniel's breath hitched, and when she dared to glance back, his eyes were darker now, searching hers in a way that made the air feel thicker. "You have a way of saying things, Decima," he murmured, almost like a confession. They fell silent again, the woods humming around them, the tension between them as steady as a heartbeat. The archway appeared ahead, ancient, moss-covered, the runes along the stones pulsing faintly in the dim light. Decima's heart raced. The pendant in her hand grew warm, almost too warm, the hum in her chest growing stronger. She stepped closer, the air crackling with energy, the world tilting on its axis. Daniel stood still, watching her, his breath soft and steady, like he was afraid to speak, to break the moment. As she reached out to touch the shimmering edge of the archway, the voice came, not Daniel's, but something deeper, older, coiled in the very roots of the earth. "Come, Decima." The words brushed across her mind, a whisper, a breath, a promise. She turned slightly, catching Daniel's gaze, and in that quiet moment, it felt like there was nothing else in the world but the two of them. This path, this choice, and the strange, undeniable pull that tied them together. Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. "Be careful." Her fingers hovered over the glowing archway, breath trembling, and she felt it, felt her. The name surfaced, unspoken but certain. Siren Fay. A jolt rushed through her and she shivered, eyes wide. The air shimmered, the archway pulsing in time with her heartbeat. She stepped forward, the world bending, the magic folding around her like a cloak, and Daniel watched, his chest rising and falling in sharp, shallow breaths, his fingers curling at his sides like he wanted to reach for her but didn't know how. When she crossed the threshold, the world shifted. Everything felt more alive. The trees glowed faintly, the air thick with possibility, and Daniel's voice followed her, low, steady, threading through the hum of magic. "I'm still here." And she knew. They were in this together. Always had been. Always would be. The tension between them was unbearable now. They just stood there staring at each other, their eyes locked, neither of them able to look away. Decima could barely breathe. Her heart was hammering in her chest, and the air between them felt too heavy, too charged, as if the whole forest was holding its breath. Daniel's gaze flicked over her face, her eyes, her mouth, then back again, and it sent a shiver through her. She didn't even realize she was smiling, this small, nervous, breathless smile she couldn't seem to stop. And when she noticed that he was smiling too, this slow, crooked grin that felt like it was for her alone, her breath hitched. He moved before she could think. Just a subtle shift. He stepped in closer, so close that she could feel the heat of him. And then his hand came up, fingers brushing lightly against her jaw, trailing down her neck, and it was so soft, so careful, like he was afraid she might break. She didn't move. Couldn't. His other hand touched her waist, and then, so gently, so slowly, he pushed her back just a little, until her back was resting against the rough bark of the tree. Decima let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Daniel's hand stayed on her waist, warm and steady, and when he leaned in, his breath whispered against her skin. So close, so unbearably close. Then he kissed her. Not a soft, fleeting kiss, not a hesitant brush of lips, but a real kiss, fierce, consuming, like he was pouring everything into it. His lips claimed hers, warm and firm, and the world seemed to tilt beneath her feet. His hand slid into her hair, fingers threading through the dark curls, and the other stayed at her waist, pulling her in like he couldn't help himself. Decima felt her whole body ignite. It was a kiss like she'd never been kissed before. One that didn't just touch her skin, but burned through her, searing itself into her bones. She melted into it, letting herself be kissed. Kissed in a way that made her knees weak and her head spin, like the air between them had caught fire and there was no way to put it out. And when he finally pulled back, just a fraction, their foreheads pressed together, she felt breathless, like her heart was beating in time with his, like something had changed, like she was never going to forget this moment, no matter what happened next.